The Milwaukee Art Museum is getting a new leader. It's always interesting to see what's happening at the museum there. Year in and year out, there's always changes. There's funding that the challenges there. There's philosophies. There's all kinds of things. And now, under new leadership at the Milwaukee Art Museum, her name is Kim Sajet. She was formerly the director of the National Portrait Gallery at the Smithsonian. She resigned earlier this year. Now she's coming to Milwaukee, and she joins us on the phone on Wisconsin's Morning News. Good morning, Kim.
Hey, good morning. It's so great to be here.
Why Milwaukee?
Why not? It's amazing. I am actually looking at, I'm renting a property. I get a view of the lake. The weather is like this all the time, right?
Yes, for sure.
Beautiful.
Hope you don't ask around too much.
Yeah.
Just take our word for it.
There was the weather report just before this, and I'm choosing not to believe it, but it's pretty fantastic. I really love the city. I feel like this is a town that has been like this well-kept secret, is on the rise. I know a lot of young professionals are moving here. I want everyone to come to the museum. I know in your lead-up you were talking about all sorts of things, but we have incredible art. And what's been really great is a lot of my friends around the art universe, including globally, they either knew about the collection and they're like, oh, what a good choice, or they're like, I had no idea, I am coming. Because I'm not even sure if Milwaukee appreciates what a world-class collection we have. It's truly extraordinary. And I know the building is beautiful. I mean, who doesn't love a building that flaps its wings a couple of times a day? But what's inside is really fantastic, and I want to welcome everyone to get to know us again and again and again.
I know you had mentioned that, Kim, this idea of you want to make sure that people are returning to the museum more than just once in a blue moon, that they're coming more and more often. How do you go about that?
Yeah, I think people sometimes they're like, oh, okay, I love that exhibition, I'll go, and then I don't need to come back, right? But there's always something happening in terms of activities, and I really want to activate the space. So that could be really fun programs that we could do. There's the MAM evenings, Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. Great place to come and have a meal and a drink and just get to see great art with your friends. I also really encourage, I don't know about you, but we're on our devices so much. I've actually been arguing with my thermostat this morning. Bloody thing won't work. But I just feel like when you're at the art museum, it's great to take a selfie, but be with other people or yourself and just enjoy some real time in front of incredible creativity. And so there's always going to be something here. I'm looking forward to getting to know the team. So don't just come for the exhibitions and the collection, but come for the programming.
Kim, how do we appear set up in your eyes in terms of funding? There's an endowment, there is some local money, but, increasingly here in our community, as I'm sure you are aware, we are strained for resources. We have so many investments, which is great in the arts and culture community. We've got a new public museum that's going up. I'm sure you're aware of that. Our performing arts community is very strong, but we're also not the biggest city in America as well. The pie is only so big. So how do you believe that we are set up financially here at the Milwaukee Art Museum?
Yeah, listen, I have to take a step back and just remind everyone that museums and libraries and sort of institutions of culture, the business model has fundamentally changed from when they were all set up at the late 19th century, right? It used to be sort of the big names, the Rockefellers, the Mellons, the Carnegies, that would write a big check and the rest of the community benefited. It's not like that anymore. And even corporate sponsorship around the world, it's changed. The model has changed. So what I like to believe in is that we need to become even more beloved of our community. People need to value us and say we want to support it. And if that's at the local level, which I know it is, the local, community county is really generous to the museum. I hope that they continue that and see our value. It's also with philanthropy. We're really so grateful for people who see this as part of their giving because they believe in the mission. But then it's also things like, we just redid the store. It's a great place to come and look for fun gifts. I buy all my jewelry at museum stores. Ladies are going to come on by, and gentlemen, by the way. But also, great food and have an event in the Calatrava, in the Quadracci building, because it's a fantastic place to have a party. So, the models for museums around the country, around the world has changed. And I think the key is for the Milwaukee community and the greater Milwaukee, but also just around the world, people to value us and say, you know what, this is something we want in our community and we're going to support it and make sure it's thriving. And I don't know about all of you, but I'm quite competitive. So I just don't want to be good. I want to be the envy of every other city in the United States.
Sounds good.
We'll take that. Yeah.
Kim Sajet.
Yeah, right?
Us.
Yeah. Everyone's going to hear more about the Milwaukee Art Museum in the future if I have anything to do with it.
That sounds awesome. Kim Sajet joins us she's the new leader of the Milwaukee Art Museum. Now, you came from the Smithsonian. You were the director of the National Portrait Gallery, but stepped down from your position earlier this year because it looked like you were in the crosshairs of the president. The White House was looking to make changes.
Yeah, he didn't like my approach to diversity, and I really followed the Great Seal in America, right? E pluribus unum, out of many one. I wanted the museum, and I want this for the Milwaukee Art Museum too, to be something where it doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is, how old you are, whatever, that you feel at home in that museum. And so I'm really proud of the work I did there. But, a change of administration, different ideas. And I also didn't want the focus to be on me. Like, it's about the institution, not just a single person. So I thought it was better just to, sort of step away so that the shift could go back to supporting the Smithsonian. It's an incredible place. I loved working there. The foundation, the mission of the Smithsonian is the increase and diffusion of knowledge. I mean, what is not to love? And I wish them every success. I know that they strive very hard to be nonpartisan. They rely deeply on the support of Congress and the members of the public. And I was incredibly proud to be there. But now I'm very glad to call Milwaukee home.
Kim Sajet is with us. She's the new director of the Milwaukee Art Museum. So here locally then, Kim, how do you see, or not at all, politics playing into decisions that you may make in terms of what other works you might try to bring here, exhibitions and the like? I mean, it's hard to avoid politics in any way, right, in our current society. So, yeah, how do you see politics playing into your new role here in Milwaukee?
I haven't had a chance to understand the Milwaukee politics, but I'm all about friend raising. I really believe, and in fact, I really do believe that the arts is a place where people from different backgrounds can come together. It's kind of a universal language, right? So I don't know enough yet. I'm sure that everyone here gets along perfectly, and it's always harmoniously. Everything is harmonious, right?
Your scouting report is dead on that. Yes.
Yeah. But I love to learn from other people. I'm always about understanding different perspectives and hopefully growing as a leader as a result. I really want to hear from everyone from Milwaukee about what they want to see in their museum. Let me know. I don't have an email address yet, but at some point, I guess I will have one. But I really do want to hear from everybody because this is our museum and we're going to make it the best museum ever.
So Vince and I oftentimes are discussing artificial intelligence because we're just fascinated at this new tech tool that is out there and how it's affecting, not always for good, the pros and cons of what AI is becoming for everyone, not just for one industry, but all industries. Is there any faction of it that you see that you really like or really concerned about when it comes to artificial intelligence as it pertains to the art industry?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this forever. And by the way, you all have to come to the museum.
Yes,
this
ma'am.
Can't be our first conversation, right? This cannot be our first chat. No, particularly as someone who is really focused on portraiture, you can imagine what a big shift that could have potentially for the universe. I mean, now thanks to AI, I could take a picture of myself and pretend that I'm on, I don't know, a mountain in Tibet, and everybody could believe me, right? So what I'm really worried about is the question about what is true, and do we believe not only what we're seeing on our things, but we can artificially change our appearances. I have definitely been guilty of like touching up the photos to look better, shave off a couple of those years, right? But what does that do to our future when in fact you think and it's one thing if it's yourself and your friends, but what does it mean if like leaders from history suddenly look very different in the virtual world than they do in the real world? And what does that mean for the distant future when those people pass away and all that we have is the record of the digital record? And I want to bring this back to museums because I can see a world, if you read a lot of science fiction, and I do, I love it, there are these sort of dystopian novels that talk about the fact that, well, everything's digitized, so we don't really need the real stuff anymore because, it takes a lot of money to store furniture and paintings and archival documents and, sort of human existence. You need air conditioning and you need conservators, and it's a lot of money. So could you imagine a future where we decide we're going to get rid of all of that and we're just going to have it all on the internet? And then I think we really have a problem because the evidence of human existence the real evidence is gone. And I think, as we all know, our our ideas about things change over time. There was a time when Martin Luther King Jr. was jailed for, civil unrest, and now we celebrate him every year on a public holiday. So I think we've got to be reminded that how we think about something today could be very different than how we think about something 10 years from now, or let alone 100 years from now, let alone what somebody might look like. So I think it can, as you said, be a real boon, but it can also, I think, we have to be really wary of what we're doing for the sake of future generations, particularly when it comes to history.
I think that's such a great point, and I love to hear you say all that because I think AI and all this stuff and all the digitization might cause us to go back to things that are real. I want to see the real thing. I want to see an actual painting, to know that a world-renowned artist's hands touched this canvas, and I'm looking at that actual
100
canvas.
years ago.
I think it takes on added meaning, don't you, E?
Yeah. Hey, Kim.
Yeah, I mean, how many people haven't heard that story where they're like, I'm going to go see the Mona Lisa, and when they get there and they fight the crowds at the Louvre, they're like, oh, it's so small. I had no idea, right? Because it looks great on your screen. That's not to say you shouldn't go, by the way. It's a fantastic picture. But I don't want to diss the Mona Lisa or the Louvre. Next thing you know, I've got a phone call coming. But, it is a really good point. And I think that I always think about now museums having to operate on different levels of reality. Umberto Eco talked about travels into hyper-reality. So we've got the real, and then we've got the hyper-real. And they're very different. And you've got to curate them differently, and you've got to think about them differently. And as long as everybody is aware that we're operating on different levels of perception, then I think we're going to be good. And of course, we know that this current generation is very used to skipping around these different sort of levels of perception. But I think it's a good reminder to all of us that, come and look at the real things. And then, ideas can happen in all sorts of realms of possibility.
Well, I'm sold, Vince. I think we got ourselves a winner here.
And I think we were invited also
I was going to say,
for an audience at the museum.
No, this is the start